The main character, Harold, says goodbye to an old woman and says that he will see her tomorrow. The old woman asks what happened to him because he looks very happy, and an old man says that he is happy because he finally got a house. Harold says that he finally got a house that he really wanted yesterday. When he gets to the house, it is all up in flames and gets on the ground and starts crying in pain. He gets angry and sad at the same time, and when the flames go out, he goes back to the town where he just walks around randomly. Harold thinks that there is no point anymore and that nothing matters anymore. He does not know how this could have happened or who did it. When he returned from his work, it was already in flames, so he could not have done it, and wonders if there is an arsonist, someone who purposely sets fire to property in the town. He thinks that if the arsonist wanted to burn something, he should have chosen someplace else instead, and gets depressed. While walking around, there is a person asking someone about the sword they are carrying and asks if it is a magic sword. The adventurer says that he found it in a treasure room in the middle layers, and another guy calls him lucky. The maze is a place where people say can earn you money by exploring it, but it does not help Harold because he has no talent in sorcery or with a sword, and his intelligence and strength is just average. Harold is just an ordinary 25-year-old and understands that he is too old now and always worked hard, but now he needs money. He says that if he had a lot of cash, he would not get so depressed over a house burning down. Harold then wonders how much money he has left and goes to the bank to check. The bank worker says that his balance is 150,000 rubles, and Harold says that the amount adds up to 1 month of pay doing basic manual labor. He tries not to brag, but says that he has always been a hard worker, and besides just doing his normal job, he also took side jobs in his spare time like repairing tools and woodworking, and spent time collecting wild vegetables and herbs in mountains and selling them as cooking ingredients. He had saved over 20 million rubles, but most of it went to building the house that burned down, which makes him a bit depressed. What an unlucky man, even if he is the main character. Harold tells the bank worker that he would like to take out all of the money he has in the account. He does not have a lot of money left anyways and decides to spend it, but he knows that what he is doing is not good or healthy, but he does not care. He decides to spend it on expensive food or gambling, but while walking around, he notices a board outside his shop which says that there is a slave auction today. Harold has heard some people talking about slave business and human trafficking, but does not see it very often because it is a bit illegal. The merchant, who is standing in front of the store, notices Harold and asks him if he is interested in bidding on one of their slaves. Harold says that he does not have the money to buy a slave, and they normally cost 2 million at the minimum, and since Harold does not look rich, he wonders why the merchant even talked to him in the first place. The merchant tells him that he has slaves that start at 10,000 rubles, and if he gets lucky, he can get one for cheap. Harold tells him that the price always ends up higher at the end, but the merchant says that it does not go high if there are no other bidders. Sometimes a slave gets sold at the minimum price, which hurts the business, but the merchant finds it fun. He asks Harold if it is still not for him and tells him that he can just come in and watch and does not have to buy one. Harold decides that it should be fine to watch and might not buy anything, but he is interested in it. Harold asks him if there is an admission fee, but the merchant just takes him inside the building. When Harold opens the door to the auction hall, he notices a lot of people standing around, especially rich people. Harold notices an empty seat, which is the last seat, and figures out that the merchant wants him to come in so that the bidders will get more excited to bid if the whole hall is full. The merchant starts the auction and thanks everyone for coming to the auction Cirque du Slave. The merchant represents a group of slave auctioneers who collect many slaves from different places and guarantee that they have a slave that the guests would like. The merchant is a traveling merchant, and Harold thinks that now that his house is all ashes now, he should do some traveling. The merchant explains the rules, saying that they will accept bids after each slave is introduced, and the person who raises their hand and places the highest bid will get the slave. He starts the auction and brings out a slave who is handcuffed and wearing revealing clothing. Everyone gets excited because the slave is an elf and looks beautiful. People do not really get to see elves even in cities and wonder if it is really an elf. Harold also has never seen an elf before and is surprised. The merchant explains that the elf can shoot a bow, do magic, and read and write in Elvish. He says that even if you are a popular aristocrat, a rice merchant, or a hero, they might not get another chance to see an elf like her, and starts the bidding at a special price of 20 million rubles. Harold is surprised, and a lot of people in the hall bid on the elf, with the highest price being 633 million rubles. The merchant asks if anyone else is willing to pay more, but no one does, so the elf is sold for 633 million rubles to a man in an armor suit who looks a bit too old. Harold knows that the elf is beautiful and rare, but is surprised that the slave was sold for so much money, and thinks that the people there are on another level. The merchant brings out more slaves who all wear revealing clothing, some of them being beastwomen and a demon. They are sold for a lot of money as well, and Harold starts to feel dizzy because of the amount of money being changed. The The merchant brings out the last slave and Harold wonders if the auction is finally ending. When Harold sees the last slave, he is surprised and the merchant says that she is a dark elf. Everyone is shocked and no one seems to bid on her because they could be in danger if they get involved with a dark elf. The merchant is surprised as well and Harold thinks that it is completely different compared to when the first elf was introduced. Harold understands it though because dark elves bring bad luck to everyone around them. Dark elves being bad is understood by society and found in stories and the lessons they teach. There are stories that say that dark elves bring trouble to bad children, so no one would want to buy a dark elf. They are rarer than elves though, and a lot of people do not know what they are really like. One of the people in the crowd asks what happens to people who get involved with dark elves, and someone says that the whole family went bankrupt and was eliminated. The merchant tries to get people to buy her, saying that the dark elf is young and understands magic and has entered the maze. She can be a bodyguard or help in quests and can do housework as well. No one still bids for her, and the merchant says that in this continent, she may be evil and impure, but outside of here, there are places where dark elves are good fortune. Harold thinks that they chose her to be last, and they thought that everyone would want her, but being from another continent, they did not know about the bias against dark elves. The merchant starts the bid at a low price of 150,000 rubles, and Harold is surprised that he is not taking her out of the auction and could be protecting his pride as an auctioneer. Harold remembers that he has 150,000 rubles, and since no one is bidding on her, Harold raises his hand and everyone is surprised and calls him crazy. Harold was not planning to spend anything, but the price of the slave is the exact same amount that he currently has, so he decided to buy her. He has no bias against dark elves and does not believe in rumors about people he has never met, and even if it was true, he has nothing to lose anyways. The merchant asks if anyone else wants to bid, and this might be their last chance to see a dark elf again, but no one raises their hand, so the dark elf is sold to Harold for 150,000 rubles. After the auction, the merchant counts the money for the dark elf and tells Harold that he got a good deal on her because in the Western continent, he has seen dark elves being sold for 1.6 billion rubles, and Harold is shocked at this. Harold asks if he will cancel the transaction, but the merchant says that he will not because trust is the most important thing in this business, and if people found out that he might go back on the deal, he will be done and just misjudge the situation. He's a nice guy and gives the dark elf to Harold for 150,000 rubles. He brings her out and tells Harold to drop a bit of his blood on the collar and then have the dark elf wear it. Harold asks why, and the merchant says that it is to teach the collar that Harold is the master of the dark elf. The collar is designed to summon spikes which eliminate the slave in case the slave tries to attack whoever's blood it receives. Harold tells that slave that once he puts the collar on her, he will be her master, and the slave says that it is nice to meet him. She wears the collar and Harold asks for her name, and she says that her name is 80. Harold says that it is a nice name and introduces himself as well, and 80 stares at him. Harold asks if something is wrong, but she quickly looks away embarrassed. She apologizes and is glad that Harold looks kind. That is how Harold got a dark elf slave, even though his house burned down and has no money anymore. Harold puts on a coat for 80 to cover herself with so she can hide her ears and not draw attention when they walk through the town. When they are outside the auction hall, they notice the armored man and the elf slave he bought standing in the middle of a crowd. Eddie looks at her and the elf sees her staring and looks very angry at her. Harold and Eddie walks past them and the elf shakes her head at her, and Harold is confused why she did that. Eddie says that dark elves do not get along with elves, and that is why the elf slaves does not like Eddie. Harold wonders if there is nothing personal going on and whether the elf only hates her because of Eddie's race, but does not know the full reason. Harold thinks a little and wonders what they should do next and wants to go home, but it is all ashes now. Harold tells 80 that they cannot go back to his house because it burned down, and cannot stay in a lodge either because he used all of his money to buy 80. He does have a plan though and tells 80 that there is a cabin at the base of the mountain that no one is using, so they can stay there for tonight. Eddie agrees with him, and Harold looks all over 80 and notices how underdressed she is. Harold says that they should go shopping for clothes at some point, but 80 says she does not want to burden him because he has no money right now, and 80 says that she will think of something. Harold is surprised at how calm 80 is, and he feels strange because even though he felt like giving up after losing his house, he feels better than before and getting back to normal. Harold tells 80 that if there is anything she wants, she should tell him, and 80 says that she could use some weapons and armor. Harold is surprised at this and wonders what she needs them for, and 80 tells him her plan. She says that since Harold has no money, they should go to the maze and they should be able to earn money, even if they do not go in too deep in the maze. 80 has some experience with mazes, and even if it will take some time for her to get used to a new maze, they can still get it done and earn money. Harold wonders about the maze, and he remembers that the slave merchant said that 80 understands magic and has gone into some mazes before. The adventurers before as well got some treasure from the mid-layers of the maze. 80 tells Harold that dark elves do not seem very well liked around this area, so it would be hard for her to get a job, and tells Harold to watch her. She picks up a stone from the ground and throws it very hard, which hits a bird in the sky. Poor bird does not even know what hit it. Harold is shocked, but 80 says she is embarrassed because she only hit one bird, and even though she does not want to sound like she is making excuses, if she had a gun or bow, she can easily get 3 birds at once. Harold wonders that on top of her skills with weapons, she also has knowledge about magic, and they might be able to earn money from the maze for a living. Harold tells her that they should prepare as soon as possible, but even if 80 feels confident, the maze is still a dangerous place, and if she has to turn back, she has to, because the most important thing is to come back alive. 80 tells Harold that she will be careful because she does not want to leave this world and will protect Harold as well while she smiles. Harold is embarrassed and says that this is the first time he has seen her smile, but Harold becomes confused and wonders why she said that she will protect him as well, because he was not planning on going into the maze. At the cabin near the base of the mountain, 80 is surprised that the cabin looks nice even though it is not used a lot. Harold tells her that he would sometimes make repairs because it is useful when he was collecting wild herbs and plants. 80 tells him that she will start preparing the food, and Harold lets her. After eating, 80 lays down on her mattress near the furnace, and Harold gives her a blanket to cover herself with. 80 wakes up suddenly and looks at him, but Harold tells her that it is fine to sleep and he will not do anything to her. 80 is thankful and goes to sleep immediately, but Harold thinks that she might just be pretending to be asleep because she thinks he might attack her. Harold pokes her face and thinks that since 80 is a slave, she has some idea of what might happen, but it does not make it less scary. 80 is still sleeping, and Harold notices her lips and gets embarrassed and looks away from her. The next day, they both wake up while Harold is doing something with a knife. He hears some loud footsteps and notices a group of Imperial soldiers marching east in the forest, and Harold wonders why, because he has not heard of a war between the Empire and the Kingdom of Tawakal. Eddie does not know what is happening on this continent and wonders if there's a major conflict and is a bit scared of that. Harold asks why she just does not go to another continent, and 80 is surprised and asks if he is fine with that. Harold says that he is fine with it and they can earn money for the trip easily, and asks 80 where she wants to go. 80 tells him that she would like to go to the southwest corner of the southern continent to the Great Astral Gorge, and Harold agrees with it. Harold thinks that a ship to the south continent is pretty expensive, and the reason for this is because of the labyrinth. If he wants to make money from the labyrinth, he should join her as well, but the only thing that he can use is a spear that his father taught him in the past, but it would not be good in a narrow labyrinth. 80 asks him why he is not asking her why she wants to go there, and Harold wonders that if someone asked him like that, then they would be curious as well. Harold gets up and sits right beside 80 and asks her if 80 is his slave, and she says that she is. He grabs her ear and touches it while saying that no matter what reason she has, she cannot leave him and he cannot let go of her. He tries to go in for a kiss but backs away like a chicken and tells her that when she wants to talk, she can just tell him whenever, since 80 is important to him. 80 gets very embarrassed and says that if she is important to him, then she is not a slave, but then does not finish what she was going to say. 80 touches her lips and says that it was her first kiss very quietly. Harold is now outside shopping for something when he remembers how he lost his job last night and how awkward it feels. Harold is in front of the shop that the owner fired him from, but if Harold wants to earn money to enter the labyrinth, he needs to ask him to let him work there again, but does not want the owner to yell at him. The owner opens the door and notices Harold and gets very surprised at this. He looks like he is going to shout at Harold, but suddenly he starts crying and grabs Harold, saying that he is alive. The owner went to Harold's burnt-down house because he did not show up after some time and noticed the house was all burned up and thought that Harold might not have lived. Harold explains to him in the store, and the owner understands what has happened. Harold says that to enter the labyrinth he needs money, but the owner asks why he is going to the southern continent, and Harold says that he just has to go. The owner says that if he cannot tell him the details, then he has his reasons, and tells him to wait and brings out an envelope with a lot of money in it. Harold is surprised, and the owner says that he was going to give it to him when Harold was on his own because the master always gives a gift to his disciples when he gives them kindness, but Harold says that he is not getting a share of it. The owner says that he is right, but he saved up the money to give it to him anyways in the first place, and since he is leaving, he will give it to Harold now. Harold worked harder for 15 years, and even though it is not a lot of money, the owner says that to think of the money as payment for his retirement. Harold thanks the owner for everything he did for him and goes back home where 80 greets him. There is a big chicken on the table, and Harold asks if 80 prepared the meal. Harold thanks her and tells her that he got some money and that they will be buying equipment the next day and gives her a souvenir. He puts a hat on her and Adi is happy about it, and Harold says that the hat will help cover her ears and asks if she wants a different hat instead. Adi says that it is fine and she likes it a lot and tells him that she will treasure it. The next day at the equipment shop, Harold asks Adi which weapon is the best. Adi says that each weapon has its own advantage and disadvantage, but picks a sniper rifle gun as her weapon for now. Adi tells Harold that she wants the sniper rifle gun as her weapon, and the store owner says that the weapon costs 50,000 rubes. Harold asks if he can get her a more expensive weapon, but Adi says that the low price of the weapon is one of the reasons she wants to get it, but also that she really wants to have a single-shot rifle. If she has a special bow, such as the magic bow, it would be more powerful than a gun. But when Harold sees the price of the bow, he is very surprised because it costs 6.8 million rubes. The other reason Adi chose a gun was because it has a certain amount of power and penetration, and even if it uses bullets, it is cheaper compared to the bow if they do not shoot wastefully. The bad thing about using a gun is that it makes a lot of noise and it is harder to aim compared to a bow, but they can get parts for the gun to reduce the noise, and Adi has no issues with aiming. Harold thinks that Adi is talking a lot now, but is happy because he knows that she enjoys bows and guns because she talks a lot about them. Harold smiles and says that he will buy the gun and the noise reducer item, and Adi is surprised and excited. Adi thanks him and says that she will make sure that she will be useful to him. They pay for the gun, noise reducer, some ammo, a belt to carry the ammo, gloves, and some armor. After they leave the store, they get ready to go to the maze, and Adi notices that Harold does not have any armor compared to her. Adi tells him that since he is her master, he needs better equipment, but Harold says that he is fine with the minimum armor he has, and it is more efficient for Adi to wear the armor because she is more experienced. He tells her that he will buy it when they get more money, and Adi agrees. Harold is poorly equipped and can see that the short spear he has is not made very good, but it does not matter how cheap it is. The weapon would be destroyed after one use even if Harold uses half his strength, and does not think that he will get a chance to use it because it will be destroyed after he uses it. Harold does not know a lot about the labyrinth, and Adi explains that the managing of the monsters in the labyrinth is related to how peaceful the area is. The managers of the labyrinth accept many people like hunters, and the reason why they are allowed to keep monster materials from the labyrinth is payment for stopping monsters from overflowing the labyrinth and escaping it. Harold wishes that his father told him more about the labyrinth and thinks back to when he was training as a child and his father telling him that he is not talented, and Harold thought that he would not be able to do anything with labyrinths or fighting. Harold's father, who is not alive anymore, was a labyrinth hunter, and he had a good name and was skilled. 15 years ago, he went into a labyrinth and never came back, which meant that he was attacked by monsters in there and did not survive. His father was trying to reach the deepest part of the labyrinth, but Harold thinks that he should have been satisfied on the safe levels, which still made money for him, and did not know what his father was thinking when he was using a spear as his main weapon, which is not good in tight places. Harold already lost his mother to an illness, and when his father did not come back, he was all alone. Harold does not want to feel weak anymore and had enough of it. Adi asks Harold if there is anything bothering him, and Harold says that he is fine and says that Adi knows a lot about labyrinths and thanks her. Adi gets embarrassed and says that he should not be thanking her, and Harold thinks that she is cute. The both of them arrive at the labyrinth, which is crowded with explorers who are also trying to enter it, and suddenly someone shouts at Harold to wait. Harold notices a guard standing in front of the labyrinth and wonders if he is in charge of it. Harold asks if there is an entrance fee, and the guard says that it does not cost anything to enter the labyrinth, but that there is a problem and he is trying to warn the explorers. Harold asks what the problem is, and the guard says that there was a report that some monsters that are usually on the lower floors are now coming to the upper floors. The knights formed a group to search for the monsters, but they could not find it, and since they could not find anyone who saw the monsters, they stopped searching, but the guard tells them that the monsters could be hiding, so he tells them to be careful. Harold whispers in Adi's ears and asks what she thinks, and Adi says that it is possible for 2 or 3 monsters to be there, but since there are cases when people falsely report it, she cannot be sure if what the guard is saying is true, but if there is a possibility of it being true, they should be careful. Some people behind Harold shout out that they will take care of the monsters and push people out of the way to go into the labyrinth. They notice Harold and Adi and mock them, saying if they want to be eliminated quickly and that they should go home. The explorer figures out Harold and calls him fat and calls him crazy for going into the labyrinth, and tells him that he is not Edwin Smith, the legendary labyrinth conqueror, and someone else asks if Harold misses him. They do not understand how Harold can admire a hero who is not alive anymore, and that it is the time of Gergo, the current sword sage of the Empire of Shinryu. Edwin Smith is Harold's father's name, but does not understand why they called him a legendary labyrinth conqueror and a hero. The explorer notices 80 beside Harold and says that she is cute and has big personalities and gets excited while walking towards her. Harold gets very angry and uses his spear to attack the explorer but does not hit him, and Harold tells him not to look at his woman like that, and if he does, he will attack him. The explorers around them get scared and Harold wonders why they are surprised, and they should have known this would happen, and the explorer that Harold attacked tells him to calm down and that he was just joking. 80 is holding her gun and Harold wonders why she became like that and thinks that she did not expect him to do something like this. Harold hopes that she is not angry and moves his spear away from the explorer. They do not have time to deal with them, and the both of them leave while the explorer group are surprised, and one of them asks if they saw the attack happening. They did not see it and thought that Harold was a newbie, and one of them says that they will not go near him again because he can probably eliminate all of them easily, and says that there are people like him who protect those close to him. In the labyrinth, Harold is surprised at how it looks because the walls and ground are glowing, and 80 says that the labyrinth is called Labyrinth Luminance. 80 thanks Harold for protecting her earlier and gets embarrassed, and Harold is glad that she was not angry. 80 whispers that she was surprised when he told them that 80 is his woman and 80 had strong feelings for him, but Harold is so dense and does not hear what she said. After a while, 80 shoots her weapon in the dark and she says that she hit something. When they walk up to see, they see that they defeated a monster, and Harold is surprised because he could not even see it in the dark. 80 says that it was a small monster. She always had good eyes and ears, and Harold thinks that 80 is very useful, more than he expected. He asks if it is possible to go deeper in the labyrinth, and 80 says that she went as far as the middle of the lower levels and cannot go that deep alone. Harold wonders how she cannot do it alone and asks her if she had friends before, and 80 does not say anything. After a while, 80 says that she did have friends when she was in the Western continent and looks sad when she says it. Harold and 80 sit down beside the monster while 80 tells him about her past. In the Western continent, there was a labyrinth party with only women in it, which 80 was a part of. 80 looks a bit worried and tries to explain why she was in it, but Harold says that he should not have asked and tells her that she does not have to tell him if she does not want to. 80 thanks him but tells him anyway so he knows more about her. She explains that her party leader fell in love with a man and gave him a lot of their money that they earned in the labyrinth. Even though the group was making a lot of money, it was not enough for him. That one day, 80 was drugged with pills, and when she woke up, she was already sold off to a slave trader. She explains that if you are a pure dark elf, they get sold for a higher price, and Harold says that he is sorry for making her tell her part, and that the leader was a bad person. 80 says that if the leader did not fall in love with him, then she would not have become a slave and met a good man like Harold, so she is thankful for that. 80 then says that if it was someone horrible, she would have hated the leader of her previous party a lot for making her a slave. It has not been a day yet, and Harold does not remember being a good master, but 80 already likes him and is grateful to him. Harold then thinks that he should be a good master from now on and starts taking the monster apart. While he does, 80 quietly says that she understands her leader's action now because if she falls in love with Harold, she would do anything for him as well, but of course Harold does not hear what she said. They both explore more of the labyrinth, and 80 gets better at using her gun and eliminates the monsters with one bullet. After attacking so many monsters, Harold says that the mole fur is very heavy and they should go home now, but 80 calls Harold over because she found something. There is a door up ahead which 80 says might have some kind of treasure in it. Harold gets excited, and even though he was going to stop for the day, he tells her that they should go in and check it out. 80 uses her magic and some butterflies pop out, which Harold is very shocked to see. He asks her what they are, and 80 says that she created it using her magic and made it so that the butterflies prefer places where they can sense bad things, and they stop at places where there are traps so they can go safely through them. Harold is surprised again, and 80 says that she has other magic spells she can use, but none of them are useful in a battle. She notices a butterfly sitting on a wall, and 80 says that there are some traps ahead before they can enter the door, which means there should be some treasure in the room. Harold asks if no one has been in the area yet, and 80 says that it might be true, but there are a lot of explorers in the upper levels, so the treasure might have appeared recently. Harold gets confused, and 80 explains that labyrinths have a will of their own, and after the treasure is taken, the labyrinth takes some days to collapse the area with the treasure, and over time, the treasure is in another place and the trap is set again. Harold remembers that there were rumors that it also spawns monsters and thinks that the labyrinth is very mysterious. They enter the door and notice a pedestal with a sword sitting on it. The butterflies that 80 summoned sit on the sword, meaning it is a trap, and 80 says that it is a dagger that is probably cursed, which is very rare in the upper levels. Harold does not know much about labyrinths, so he wants 80's opinion on what to do next. 80 explains that if the curse only has negative effects, they cannot use it and no one would buy it either, so finding out what kind of curse is in the territory or sorcery rather than magic. Another way is to use special magic tools, but they do not have any with them. Harold then says that they should leave it until they have tools to figure out the curse, and asks if those types of tools are expensive. 80 says that they cost enough to buy a whole house, and Harold remembers his house that was burned down, which cost him 15 years of his savings. 80 says that if they can make a steady income on the lower levels, they can make that much money in a month, and if they are very lucky, they can get it in a single search. If they cannot afford it, is fine though, so Harold says they should take it easy and earn safely, since they are only there to get money for their travels. They smile at each other, and later they reach the surface and exit the labyrinth when they notice a big crowd. They see that it was the knight and the elf from the auction hall, and some of the explorers say that he is the third son of a count, and that there were rumors of him exploring labyrinths. The knight says that the elf is his slave and shows her off by pulling her chain and asks her who her master is. Everyone is surprised, and Harold gets angry, saying that if he is doing something bad, they should fight back, but the slave collar on her would not allow it. The knight says that the elf is beautiful and can use magic and can be used to satisfy with at night. He tells her to say something, and the crowd gets excited. Eddie tries to look at what is happening, but she is too short, and there are too many people, so cannot see anything. Harold tells her not to look, and they leave the area. At the town, they go to the Napole Trading Company, which Harold used to go to when he was working for his master as a silversmith, and they pay explorers for materials they get from the labyrinth. They enter the building, and a butler, Tosu, welcomes Harold and notices 80. Tosu asks what he can help with, and Harold brings out the fur that he got from the dungeon, and Tosu is surprised that Harold switched to being a labyrinth explorer. He asks for his reason, and Harold says that he needed money to get to the South Continent, and Tosu does not ask for more questions. He then takes the fur and says that they are 1,500 rubes each, with a total for 12,000 rubes. Harold is surprised because the wage he got at his master's place was 7,000 rubes, and he earned almost twice as much in one day, so he should be able to save up sooner than he thought. Harold asks Tosu how much it costs to get to the South Continent. Back at the house, Harold explains that it would be 3 million for the both of them to cross the west, and if they want to directly go to the South Continent, it would be 10 million rubes. The direct way costs a lot because it crosses an area where there are monsters from the Undersea Labyrinth and takes a lot of time, but the West Continent way is less expensive and safer. Harold says the safer way is better and thinks that they should get an extra 2 million just in case, so they would need 5 million in total. For a few days, they go into the labyrinth and earn more money, and in that week, they earn 170,000 rubes, and after taking money for their living expenses, they have 120,000 rubes. Harold says that he wants to go into the middle levels soon, and 80 agrees because she can take care of stronger monsters now. They decide that they will go to the middle level the next day, but they did not know about the monster that they would find there. At the middle level of the labyrinth, Harold wonders what monsters they will see, and 80 stops immediately. Harold asks what is wrong, and 80 says she does not like it here. Harold thinks if the atmosphere is heavy or if they are lost, but 80 says that it is not either of them and hears something coming towards them. They quickly hide behind some rocks, and a huge monster comes through the wall and makes loud noises. The monster leaves, and 80 says that the monster is from the lower floor, and Harold is shocked. 80 explains that the monster might be some kind of earth dragon, which comes from the lower floors, and remembers what the guard at the entrance said about monsters from lower floors coming to the upper levels. 80 says that she is sorry because she cannot do any damage with normal bullets because its skin is very strong. Harold says that they should go home, even though he wants to go to the middle floors, but he does not want to see the earth dragon again. 80 agrees but hears someone shouting, and they notice an explorer running towards them screaming for help. The explorer tells them that there is a high-level earth dragon that appeared and wants them to help him. There were 4 of them, and they were hiding in a crack, but the earth dragon found them and is waiting for them to come out of the crack. The explorer begs them for help, and Harold wonders where he saw him before and remembers when they tried to attack 80 before they entered the labyrinth. While the explorer is begging, Harold thinks that it is too late for them to go back to the entrance and call for help, and there are not a lot of people anyways who can beat the earth dragon either, so it is not possible to ask for help after getting involved in a weird way. Harold tries to decline, but the explorer says that his friends have children, and if they are not alive anymore, their children will be without parents. Harold remembers his past when his father disappeared in the labyrinth and asks where the group is. The explorer asks if they will help him, and Harold says that there are children waiting for them to come back, and even though the explorer is annoying, they should still help them. Harold has a secret weapon and asks 80 to keep him safe after he collapses, and he runs towards where the earth dragon is. 80 asks what secret weapon, but he is already far away, so she runs after him. Harold runs towards the earth dragon and finds it attacking the crack with the other explorers stuck in it. Harold knows that the earth dragon is waiting for them to come out. Since it is only the Earth Dragon around him, it should be easy to drag it out so that the explorers can escape, but the Earth Dragon does not notice Harold because it thinks that it is too strong and full of pride that no one would attack it. Harold puts one foot forward and throws his spear hard at the Earth Dragon and says that the Earth Dragon lost the battle. Harold uses his secret weapon, which tightens all the muscles and nerves in his body to prepare for the recoil while he gathers energy from another dimension. His flesh gets torn by the force and his brain starts shutting down as if it will explode. He forces the energy into the spear, which starts melting the blade, and Harold remembers his father explaining the ability to him. He said that the power is not the same as magic, and it is such a powerful power that it must not be allowed to be shown to the world. The ability is called Blazing Continent Piercing Spear, and Harold throws the spear straight at the Earth Dragon, and it is followed by flames. It hits the Earth Dragon directly at the body, and Harold defeats it instantly. Suddenly, there is blood coming out his eyes and nose because the ability is too powerful, and he used all of his energy. He falls down on the ground and sees 80 running towards him while shouting his name. When Harold wakes up, he feels something soft, and 80 asks Harold if he is awake. Harold is laying on 80's lap, and he notices that she is crying. 80 says that she did not know what was going to happen and followed where Harold was going. Harold assures her that he is fine and gets up while feeling a little dizzy, but does not feel like there are any other serious effects that will come later on. Eddie says that Harold collapsed randomly, and she ran to him when he did while there was blood coming out of his face. Harold tells her that he will be careful next time, and 80 makes him promise her, and he accepts. Harold asks if the other explorers are okay and notice them coming towards him. The main explorer, the leader, probably apologizes for what he did before at the entrance when they first met and thanks Harold for saving them. He starts crying, saying that he thought he would never see his children again because he might not live, and they leave after a while. After they leave, Harold wants to take the Earth Dragon home and sell it, but it will be hard to dismantle it because of how hard its skin is. 80 says that even though the Earth Dragon is a deep monster and the outer skin is a dragon metal and dismantling it would be hard, there is already a hole in it made by Harold. She asks him how he did that with his ability. Harold tells 80 that the ability he used to eliminate the Earth Dragon was called Blazing Continent Piercing Spear. 80 is surprised that he has such a strong skill, but Harold tells her that the bad thing about using the skill is that he loses consciousness whenever he uses it, so he cannot use it as much as possible, and the spear that he uses the ability on also melts. 80 remembers how Harold fell down when he used the ability and tells him not to use it again because she is worried about him, and Harold says that he will try not to use it again. The leader of the explorers he saved comes up to Harold and they ask if they can help carry the Earth Dragon that he defeated. They owe their lives to Harold, and it is the least they can do, and Harold agrees to it and wonders how much a deep-layered monster is worth. At the monster item store, the clerk tells Harold that the purchase price for the materials of the Earth Dragon is 13 million rubes, and Harold gets very shocked at this and almost falls over. Eddie asks if he is okay, and Harold now knows why the labyrinth brings in so many people because they can easily earn money. The clerk tells Harold that since the amount of money they will give him is over 10 million rubes, they must enter their bank details. Harold has not used his ability in a long time, so it was hard on him and affected him a bit more than usual, but it was worth it because he got a lot of money for defeating the Earth Dragon. After 2 days, Harold sees that he has 13 million rubes in his bank account, but he still cannot believe the amount of money he got. Now he has enough money to get on the ship to the West Continent. Harold comes back from the bank and buys a peach tart for 80. Eddie asks if Harold does not want some, and Harold declines, so 80 gets very happy because she gets the peach tart for herself. Harold says that since he asked 80 to stay at home for today, he got her something, and 80 thanks him. She takes a bite of the peach tart and enjoys it very much. Harold tells 80 to listen while she eats and says that they have enough money now to get on the ship, so they will leave for the port city and next day, and tells her how they should prepare. The next day, 80 and Harold are waiting for the carriage to arrive to take them to the port city, and Harold tells her that from the port city, they will take the boat, which will take them to the southern continent from the western continent. While on the carriage, Harold notices his home that he bought still burned down and all destroyed, and he thinks back to when he saw it burning and did not expect that he would be in this current situation. He thinks that no one ever knows what will happen in the world and smiles while looking at 80, and 80 asks if there is something wrong. Harold asks if 80 has been to the western continent before and asks what it is like there. 80 says that it is not a very bad place and there are many races there, so battling is common among them. Even with all the fights, there is a lot of interest because of the diversity of color. Harold says that she will be able to tell him more once they arrive there, and 80 says that that is what she was thinking as well. Harold apologizes, but 80 says not to because Harold needs 80, so she is very happy about that. While the carriage is driving, there are 2 people standing on the side of the road. It is a young woman and an old man, which the woman calls him grandfather. They are waiting for the carriage to take them to the port as well, and when they enter the carriage, the old man notices Harold and asks who he is because he has seen him somewhere before. Harold asks if he is confusing him with someone else, and the old man says that if he was alive today, he would not be so young, which might mean he is talking about Harold's father. The old man says that he does not have a kind face either, but does not remember what his name was, but he does remember that he was very good at fighting and even his son could not defeat him. The old man says that he was the same as Harold because he also used a spear, but the young woman that was with the old man enters the carriage and slaps him, saying that he is rude. He says that he has trouble matching people's names and faces. The young woman says that he must be joking and asks what his name is, and he says it is Varen Myers, and then she asks what her name is, and he says it is Cecil, and then asks what her father, the old man's son's name is, and he says that it is Gergo. When Varen says his son's name, Harold thinks that he heard that name before, and Cecil tells Varen to not play games with her. Cecil apologizes for Varen's rude behavior, and Varen also says that he is sorry, and Harold smiles. Varen sits down and says that his granddaughter is mad at him and does not know how many more times she will have to get angry before they reach the Western continent. Harold asks if they are going to the Western continent as well, and Varen says that they will be traveling partners for a while and looks forward to spending time with them. While near the port city, 80 notices a ship, which means they have almost arrived, and when they reach, Varen says goodbye to them and has a nice ride. Cecilia tells them that they will be going on the ship called Balestia, and if Harold has not decided on which ship to go on yet, they should come on the same ship as them. They wave goodbye, and 80 asks Harold what he wants to do, and Harold says that they should go on the same ship if it is not too expensive. They look around and go to the building to buy tickets for the ship. The clerk there says that they are lucky because there are a lot of ships at the port that are going to the Western continent, so they have a good chance to get on one of the ships. Harold asks if he knows a ship called Balestia, and the clerk says that it is just a regular ship. The clerk then says that for Harold and Aki, the price is 2.8 million rubes, and they get a small bedroom with 2 meals. And the estimated time to get to the Western continent is about a month. The clerk also says that if they want to get the cheapest option, it costs 200,000 rubes per person, but they get a large room for 12 or more people with only 1 meal. The room will be very messy and full of rats with germs, and sometimes the ship sinks, so they have to be rescued. The ships are still a week away from leaving the port, so the clerk tells them that they can come back later when they decide which ship to take. Harold and 80 leave the building, and Harold says 10 million for a luxury ship is a lot, but if they want a cheaper ship, they will not get a lot of food and the rooms will be very bad. Harold says that they should think about it for a day or two, and they find a place to stay and eat for a while. Suddenly, a little kid runs between Harold and 80 and grabs Harold's bag. Harold shouts at the kid because the bag has all their money, which is more than 10 million rubes, and shouts at the kid to stop when suddenly something hits the ground between the kid's legs. The kid gets scared and falls down, and Harold grabs him by the shirt and tells him to give his bag back. The kid almost starts crying, and Harold notices a bullet hole in the ground, and 80 tells him that she did not mean to hit him. 80 says that the money is theirs and gets angry at the kid, telling him that even if he is a child, there are some things they should never do, and Harold gets a little scared at seeing her angry face. Harold notices a bad smell and sees that it is coming from the kid. The kid is wearing torn clothes, and Harold asks if he needs some money, and 80 tells him to not take people's money, and the kid tells her to be quiet. 80 gets angry again, but then the kid's mother is behind them, shouting the kid name Matsudo and asking what they are doing. Matsudo asks what she is doing here, and after Harold explains what happens, the mother apologizes for what her son did and tells them that she will scold him. Harold says that it is fine because he got his money back and tells her that if she does not teach him well, she will have trouble fixing him, and the mother tells him that she is trying. Matsudo tells her to be quiet, and if they have money, they can solve their problem. He can help his dad and pay off their debts, and then runs away again, and his mother shouts for him again. The mother runs behind Matsudo and chases after him. Harold says that she has a lot on her mind, and 80 says that it is a story that happens everywhere. Harold then says that they should find a place for the night and go to the inns around them. At all the inns they visit, they say that they have no rooms available for today, and they are all booked or being repaired. They went to over 12 inns, but none of them are available, but Harold does not want to camp out with the amount of money he has in his bag. 80 then sees that there is an inn with a room available, and they get happy. When they get their key to the room, the clerk says that it is a small room, but it has a double bed for 2 people. When they go to their room, Harold says that it is so small and how they even got a bed in there. When 80 sees the bed with 2 pillows, she gets embarrassed, and Harold thinks that he cannot sleep on the floor because there is no room and wonders what to do. He says that he will get a good idea in the bath and tells 80 that he will be going to take a bath. 80 says that she does not think he is dirty at all, but he might be sweating without knowing. thinking that he is taking a bath because he might satisfy her. 80 then decides to take a bath as well because the room is so small, but Harold wonders why she is taking a bath just because the room is small and thinks that she cares about her smell. He smells her a bit, and 80 gets very embarrassed at this, and Harold thinks that her smell does not bother him, and 80 runs outside to go take a bath. Harold wonders why she ran away, but also goes to take a bath. After a nice bath, Harold hears some people talking. One of them says that he was in the northeastern continent and wonders how long it would take to get to Tokyo. The older man says that they will reach there in 1 or 2 months, and the last time he went there, it was more than 10 years ago, and it was a beautiful place. The younger man says that he looks forward to going there, but says that ever since they got off the ship, he heard some strange rumors that the Empire is on the move. If there is a war, they will block the roads so they cannot go anywhere, and the older man hopes that it does not happen. Harold remembers some nights that were going around back when he was in the forest and heard that a lot of people saw them, and he was not the only one who thought it was strange. Harold goes back to his room and thinks that it does not affect him because he is leaving the continent soon anyways and lays down on the bed. After relaxing in the bath and laying down, he realizes how tired he is from the long trip and cannot sleep on the floor, and the bed is just for him and 80 to sleep in, so there's nothing wrong with that. The door to the room opens up and 80 enters, and she says that she is back. She goes up to Harold and whispers in his ears and asks if he is asleep yet, and Harold gets surprised, but he does not wake up. Harold gets embarrassed, but he thinks that he will not attack her and does not want to look mean. He quickly wakes up though and grabs her hand and pulls her towards him, which surprised 80. She says that he is awake and she gets embarrassed but rests against Harold's body. Harold gets embarrassed as well and wonders why 80 is not fighting him and thinks that because she is a slave, even if she did not want to do it, she cannot fight back because of the slave collar, but wonders what she really thinks of him. Harold would rather not know and thinks it is better to not know because he does not want to be hurt. 80 says that she knew that this day would come, and Harold thinks that he should leave the questions out and starts to talk about the ship while 80 keeps talking. She says that she has been on a ship, so she was hoping he could make it special, and even if she is a slave, she is still a woman, and for her first time, she wants him to be gentle. The main character is very dense, just like any character in an isekai manga, and does not hear what she says at all, and Harold tells her that they should talk about which ship to take. 80 is surprised, and Harold says that they have a week before the ships leave, and if they wait too long, the tickets will be sold out. Harold tells her that he thought about it a lot and they should go on Balestia, but 80 just looks embarrassed and is a little upset at him. 80 says that Varen and Cecilia are also taking the Balestia ship and looks like a normal ship. The price is also close to what Harold had in mind, which costs 3 million rubes. The ticket is not cheap, but not very expensive either, so they should get it, and 80 says that is a safe choice, while still upset at Harold. They will buy the ticket the next day, and 80 agrees, but she just lays down on the bed and starts to sleep, and Harold thinks that she is in a bad mood. Harold goes to bed as well and hugs 80 while trying to sleep because he thinks that it is his right as her master, but 80 gets angry and thinks that if he was going to do this, he should just go all the way instead because she was all prepared for it. But Harold does not know what he did wrong and thinks that 80 is very soft. The next day, they go back to the ticket building and Harold buys 2 tickets for Balestia, and the clerk says that it is 2.8 million rubes. The clerk gives him his tickets and tells them that the ship leaves in 5 days at noon, and they can go and get a room on the ship now and sleep there until they leave and can leave their luggage there as well. The clerk also says to make sure they do not miss their ship because there are no refunds, and Harold and 80 leave the building to check out their ship and their room. When they try to board the ship, a crew member tells them to show their tickets. He notices that they are in room 316 and says that they got a great room but does not know how the room survived and thought that it might have gotten canceled. Harold is confused, but they go to their room, which is pretty big, and 80 gets surprised and runs to the window. Outside the window, they see fish swimming around the boat, and 80 says that it looks very beautiful. Harold thinks that this is what the crew member was talking about and thinks that this room is below sea level. He notices that 80 is really enjoying it and does not bother her and decides to walk around the ship by himself to see what else is there. While walking around, he hears someone asking if it is him and notices Seklia walking towards him. She says that they decided to get on the same ship as them, and Harold says that they did not find any other ships that looked any good, and Seklia gets happy. Harold asks where her grandfather Varen is, and Cecilia says that he is sleeping. Cecilia tells him that since they are on the same ship, they should walk around the city together for a while, and Harold wonders what is the connection between being on the same ship and seeing the city, but Seklia grabs his hand and pulls him away. After walking around for a while, Cecilia starts eating a creep and asks Harold if he wants to eat as well and tells him to take a bit of her creep, but Harold tells her to eat it all. After walking around a bit more, Cecilia asks Harold that in the carriage they took to get to the port city, her grandfather Varen liked him. Harold says that he does not know for sure, but they did talk a bit. Cecilia says that he made small talk, so he likes him, and says that Varen is friendly but does not talk to people who he does not like. When Varen was talking to Harold, it was different, and suddenly Cecilia took her sword out and tried to attack Harold. Harold gets surprised but quickly defends himself with his spear and blocks her attack. Cecilia is surprised at how quickly he blocked her attack, and Harold says that that was very dangerous, but Cecilia says that if he did not react, she would have stopped her attack before it hit. Cecilia asks him that he parried her attack instead of avoiding it, meaning that he was able to see her sword. Harold says that he was careless, but Cecilia is amazing. Harold asks why she attacked him, and Cecilia says that because her grandfather set his eyes on him, so she felt that she had to test his skills as well. Harold is surprised at her reason, and Cecilia says that she just wanted to test him and will not do it again, and puts her sword back. She tells him to trust her, but Harold puts up his weapon to defend in case she attacks him again, but Cecilia says that she promises. Cecilia says that they should go back to the ship, and Harold says that it would be better if they go separately, but Cecilia tells him to not be so careful and that she's really sorry. Suddenly, they hear a kid shouting for help and notice two people, with one of them carrying a kid on their shoulder. They see this, and Cecilia asks if it is a kidnapping, and Harold notices that the kid is the same one who tried to steal his bag of money, Matsudo. Cecilia says that she cannot ignore this and tries to go help him and runs towards them, and Harold says that he cannot believe she went after them without stopping, so he goes with her as well. Cecilia notices Harold running behind her and asks if he will help her, and Harold says that he is coming with her just in case something happens. Cecilia says that his kind-looking face matches his personality and that he is a good guy with strength to back it up. Harold is still careful around her, but they notice Matsudo and the two thugs getting on a small boat and start rowing away from them. Harold stops, saying that they almost had them, but Cecilia gets on another small boat and tells him to get in as well. Harold says that the boat is not theirs and asks if it is fine to steal it, but Cecilia says that if it breaks down, she will pay back the owner, so he should not worry about it and to quickly get in. They start going in the direction of the thugs, and Harold tells her to stop behind some rocks. Harold sees that they are close to an island and notice multiple big ships near it, which could be the hideout of those thugs. There are a lot of big ships, and there might be a lot of thugs as well, and they park their boat on the side. Cecilia says she does not care and will make them regret what they did. Harold tells her to wait because they need to check their surroundings first, but Cecilia tells him that there is no need to be so careful because they are both pretty strong, so they cannot lose to some random thugs. Harold asks how she is so confident, but agrees that she is stronger than him. He notices another small boat in the sea and wonders if it is just a normal fisherman. They enter the forest, and Cecilia says that they just need to find where the thugs are hiding and tries walking, checking the surroundings, but she is very clumsy and almost falls down. Harold grabs her and she asks what he is doing, and Harold says that they cannot find anything if she keeps moving around randomly and tells her to look at a spot. He sees some footprints on the grass with dirt which has not dried yet, so someone has passed through the area recently. Cecilia says that she noticed that already, and Harold apologizes for that, and Cecilia blushes. While following the footprints, they get to a building where the footprints end, meaning the thugs are around the area somewhere, and Harold notices that it is starting to rain. Suddenly, it starts raining hard, and Cecilia runs towards the building, but Harold grabs her jacket and tells her to wait because going into the building is not a good idea. The thugs will find out as soon as they enter from the front, and there might be more than the two thugs, but Cecilia says that they can just defeat them all because both of them are strong, which will solve the problem. Cecilia tells him to let her go because she will be wet from the rain. They enter the building from an open window they found on the side and hide in the barrels that they found in the room. Cecilia says that hiding is too annoying and it would be better to attack anyone who gets in their way. She thinks that there is no one here that is stronger than the both of them, but Harold says that there is a chance that there is, so they should avoid it because the only reason they are there is to save Matsudo. Harold only wants to fight if they have to and tells Cecilia not to do anything. Cecilia understands and tells him that he sounds like her grandfather when they hear footsteps coming towards them. There are multiple thugs that enter the room, and one of them asks what they will do with the kid. Another thug says that since he tried to steal their goods, he will have to pay a price for stealing, and they will hand him over to their boss. The thug is a bit shocked at that, and he says that the boss loves small boys very much and that half of them ran away because they were scared. The other thug says that he looks forward to hearing the kid cry, which is kind of sick, and one of the other thugs replies saying that he has a weird hobby. Harold hears them talking and finds out that Matsudo got caught because he tried to steal goods and half of the kids ran away and called them scum. One of the thugs noticed something weird though and noticed a spear sticking out of the barrel that Harold is hiding in, and they wonder why that spear is there. The spear is in the barrel itself, which is so stupid of the main character. They wonder whose spear it is, and one of them tries to put it away properly, but one of the thugs says that he should not touch it because they do not know whose weapon it is, so they should not touch it without permission. He agrees and all of the thugs go to another room. Cecilia says that she thinks that a spear popping out of a barrel is weird and asks if Harold forgot about his spear, and Harold replies saying not to phrase it like that and to have some consideration in how she asks. They both leave their barrels and explore the building, but is very big, so they cannot find Mephisto immediately. Harold looks around the corner of the hall and notices two thugs coming towards them, so they hide in a room. Cecilia sees that there is a pedestal in the room with an egg on it, and she asks Harold what it is. Harold says that it is just an egg and Cecilia touches it, but it starts moving when she does. They notice it move and it cracks open, which surprises them both. A monster comes out of the egg and runs into Cecilia's clothes, and she gets embarrassed and talks loudly. The thugs outside of the room hear something and say that there is an intruder, and Harold says that this is not good. When the thugs enter the room, they notice there is no one there and do not see anything being stolen, while Harold and Cecilia are hidden somewhere in the room. Harold covers Cecilia's mouth to stop her from screaming while the monster is still inside her clothes and is moving around, which tickles her. The thugs are surprised when they notice that the egg on the pedestal is broken and wonder if it hatched. It might have broken because of the monster inside it, and they wonder where the monster hid. They think that it is strong because there is a lot of egg shard around them, and one of them wonders if it is fine. Their boss brought the egg from somewhere and started looking around the room for the monster, but did not find it and said that it would be bad for them if they did not find it. The monster is still moving inside Cecilia's clothes, and she starts making some sounds, but Harold tells her to be quiet because they will be found out if she starts shouting. Cecilia tells Harold that it is wriggling in her clothes and that the monster is in her top, and asks him to get it out. Harold says that there is no other way and puts his hand inside her clothes to grab the monster and let it out while covering her mouth, and Cecilia gets surprised and embarrassed at that. Harold puts his hand in Cecilia's shirt and tries to grab the monster, and Cecilia starts getting embarrassed and asks where he is grabbing while hitting him on his side. Harold says that he has no other choice, and Cecilia asks what he means by that. The monster then starts moving towards the bottom and goes into her pants, and Cecilia shouts quietly. Harold tries to see where it went and notices that it went down while his hand is still in her shirt and tries to grab it, but Cecilia gets shocked. Harold finally catches the monster while Cecilia is embarrassed at what happened and thanks Harold for helping her and apologizes for making a fuss. Harold whispers and says that Cecilia is not in her right mind and tells her not to worry about it, but the two thugs right outside the closet literally do not hear anything because they are so deaf. They are still trying to find the monster but cannot find it at all, and decide to give up because they think that the boss probably forgot about the monster egg anyways. They will probably find it, though, when they start selling off the goods, so they leave the room and continue patrolling. Cecilia and Harold leave the closet after hearing them leave, and Cecilia asks him how long he will be hugging her. Harold says he is sorry and lets go of her, and Cecilia says that he does not need to apologize, but Harold says that he did something rude, so he is sorry for that. Cecilia is not mad at what he did, though, because she likes him now. Who would have thought? Harold asks if she said something, and Cecilia says that it is nothing. Harold takes out the monster that he put in his pocket and wonders what it is. The monster looks like a pile of small rocks with a dragon-like head, and Harold heard the thugs say that they would sell the monster if they found him. The monster gets a little sad, and Harold thinks that the monster does not look like a normal snake, but asks if the monster can understand what he is saying. The monster shakes his head, and Harold is surprised that he can understand his words and calls it smart, and asks if it wants to come with them. The monster is happy and wants to come, but Cecilia shivers because of what the monster did. She asks if they are bringing the snake with them, and Harold says that it understands them, so there should not be any problem with it. Cecilia says that the snake creeps her out because of what she went through, but Harold says that it made him a bit interested in the snake and wants to bring it. Cecilia and Harold are still exploring the building and trying to find Matsudo while hiding from the thugs, and they check all the bottom floors. They reach the top floor, and Harold says that this room is the only place that they have not checked yet. They hear someone talking from inside the room, and they are calling a boy cute and making the kid amuse him, which is very weird and creepy. They hear a kid's voice coming from the room as well, and Harold wonders if it is Matsudo, and the plan to rescue him quietly is not possible anymore. Cecilia asks Harold what the plan is, and Harold says that they will have to break through by force and tells Cecilia what their roles are. He tells her to rush and grab the kid as soon as they enter, and Cecilia asks why. Harold says that if they make a lot of noise, there is a chance that the thugs will come running to them, and if they do, Harold cannot focus on fighting if the kid is still there, so when they launch the attack, he wants her to grab him quickly and run away. Cecilia gets angry, saying that the plan sucks because they can just beat the boss together, and if they need to attack, it should be her because she is stronger. Harold said that because she is stronger, he is counting on her because he cannot fight properly if he has someone to protect, and begs her to do it. Cecilia gets a bit embarrassed and agrees with the plan and confirms that all she needs to do is grab him and run. Harold thanks her, and they get ready to enter the room. Harold opens the door hard and shouts at the kid when they get surprised and notice a huge spider-woman monster on top of the kid. The spider monster asks the kid how it feels and is satisfying him while Matsudo is begging her to stop doing it. Harold is shocked that the spider monster is preying on him and remembers that the thugs said that half of the kids ran away. Harold says that the spider monster must be the boss, but did not expect her to be an actual monster and looks like a half-demon, half-human hybrid. Harold looks at Cecilia to quickly grab the kid, and the spider monster notices them and asks what is happening now. The spider monster asks who Harold and Cecilia are and stands up, and Harold says that he will be taking the kid with them. The spider monster says that she will be putting him in a cocoon so they cannot save him. She says that the child tried to steal her merchandise, and so she is making him pay for what he did, and he is the payment for that. The item he tried to steal was an expensive medicine that can heal any sickness, and the price for it is more than 50 million rubes. She did not get the medicine the proper way, meaning she stole it as well, but she does not care because she is strong, so it is fine. Harold remembers when Matsudo shouted that he will get the money to save his father and understands what is happening now. The thugs are all pirates, but their leader is a demi-human monster and says that there is a limit to how bad the situation can be. The spider monster gets angry at them for interrupting her when she was working hard, and that they are talking to her in a rude manner, which is making her angrier, and she will not go easy on them. Cecilia takes her sword out and quickly attacks the spider monster, which surprises her, but it does no damage, and Cecilia says that she is tough. The spider monster gets angry, but before it can do anything, Harold attacks it with his spear. The spider monster looks at Harold now, but the spear does no damage because it feels like they are slashing metal. The spear is stuck in the spider monster's body, but Harold rotates his body and throws the spider monster across the room, which surprises her, and she hits a wall. The spider monster is surprised at what he did, but Harold thinks that it must not have done a lot of damage because she does not look hurt. The kid is safe now, and Harold tells Cecilia to take the kid and takes the expensive medicine as well while running away. The spider monster shouts at her and says that she will eliminate them both because they stole her cute child and her medicine. The spider monster shouts at the thugs to get in the room, and they enter. The spider monster tells them that there was a guy who came there with a woman and took the kid and ran away. It tells the thugs to chase after them and capture them, and the thugs run outside. Harold says that the number of thugs that are following Cecilia is not enough to beat her, and they should instead worry about themselves. In the room, Harold gets ready to fight the spider monster and the thugs, and the spider monster tells them to eliminate Harold, and he gets surprised that the main force is attacking him. While Cecilia is running away from the thugs, the main force of thugs attack Harold. One of the thugs tries to attack with a sword, but Harold kicks him away into the other thugs and attacks one of the other ones. After a while of fighting the thugs, the spider monster is angry and says that there is a limit to how tough Harold can be. Harold does not know how long he has been fighting for and thinks it might be an hour, but it does not feel like it. The thugs shout at him and tell Harold to just be eliminated, and Harold tells them to stop saying dangerous things. The spider monster gets angry and tells the thugs to leave because now she will fight him. The monster shoots out some web acid at Harold, but it hits one of the thugs. Harold jumps up in the air to dodge it, and the spider monster tries to grab him, but he quickly dodges it as well. The roof gets destroyed and rain starts coming into the room while Harold is crouching on the floor and trying to catch his breath. The spider monster says that Harold is slower now than before and asks where all his energy went, but Harold says that by controlling his output, he can save his energy. The spider monster laughs, and Harold thinks that as long as he has his ability, Blazing Continent Piercing Spear, he will be fine, but if he loses his spear, he will be in danger even if the boss is defeated because the thugs will attack him afterwards. Suddenly, the thug that got attacked by the acid from the spider monster starts melting, and Harold is surprised that the spider monster has an acid attack as well. The spider monster uses the acid attack again, and Harold dodges it. While Harold is fighting the spider monster, there is someone outside on a hill that is walking towards them. The spider monster attacks with its legs, but all Harold can do is dodge her attacks. He decides to end the fight because he should have bought enough time for Cecilia to escape with the kid, and his body is at his limit now. He tries to run away from the room, but he slips because of the water that came in the room from the rain. He falls down on the floor, and the spider monster takes the chance to attack Harold, but suddenly, Ada uses her gun to attack the spider monster from far away. The bullet that is going to hit the spider monster gets hit by the lightning outside, which gives it more damage, and when it hits the spider monster, it screams out in pain, and Ada saves Harold just before she attacks him. The monster gets hit by the lightning as well and is eliminated while her body breaks down and gets destroyed. The thugs are surprised at what happened, and they wonder what kind of bad luck they had because their boss got hit by lightning. The spider monster was winning, but she was easily defeated just by lightning, and now they have no chance of winning, so they quickly leave and try to escape. Harold is surprised at what happened and notices 80 outside the window, standing on a hill nearby. Harold goes outside and 80 runs towards him and hugs him. She says that she might not have made it in time, so she forcibly made the lightning hit the bullet, which makes so much sense but 80 was careful not to hit Harold though. Harold figured out that the lightning was from her attack and is surprised at how much power she has. Harold says that he is surprised that she knew where he was, and 80 says that she has a mark on Harold as well, so she will always know where he is. Harold asks what the mark is, and 80 says that it is made from magic, but Harold did not know that there is such magic like that, but is very convenient. Eddie says that it is convenient this time, but is not very strong because the effect only lasts 1 week and then needs to be applied again or else it would disappear. She is glad that he is safe though, and Harold hugs her and says that he is sorry for making her worry. Eddie says that whenever there is a chance that he will be in danger, he should take her with him so she can protect him, and he promises her. While walking back to the boat, Cecilia is with the kid and waiting for Harold. When she notices him, she says that he is slow but asks who is beside him. Cecilia asks how 80 even got to the island, but Harold tells her to stop questioning her, and Cecilia agrees because they have no time to just sit around. They cannot leave the island though because of the rain, and even if they sail, they will not know if they are going in the right direction or not, and they cannot afford the risk of sinking. Harold sees that the rain is stopping and says that they are lucky because the sky is clearing up and tells them to quickly go while the sky is still clear. Harold and 80 are on one boat while Cecilia and the kid are on the other boat, and they are quickly going back to the port city. While rowing, Cecilia notices that the kid's body is too cold, and it became even colder than when she was carrying him to safety. Cecilia looks closer and lifts his shirt up and notices small spots all over his body, which Harold thinks might be the poison that the spider monster had in her body, which got into him when it was satisfying him. Cecilia shouts at the kid and asks if he can hear her, and Cecilia remembers that she had the expensive medicine that can heal any type of illness. Harold sees it and knows that it can heal sickness and thinks it should be able to work on poison as well. Harold thought that the medicine could have been something that Cecilia needed for herself, but they will have to use it on the kid because he needs it more now compared to her. Cecilia tries to make the kid drink the medicine while she starts crying. She forces the medicine into his mouth, but the kid starts coughing it out. Cecilia is shocked and does not understand what is happening and why the medicine is not working. The kid closes his eyes and stops moving, and Harold and Cecilia get shocked, and Harold thinks that it is too late. They get back to the port city and return the boat back to the owner, and the first thing they do is give the kid a proper burial. Harold knows who the kid's mother is and knows that she loves him a lot and wants to hold him in her arms again, but she cannot anymore. Harold and the gang look at the tiny little grave. After coming back and returning to the boat, this is the only thing they can do. Give Matsudo a proper burial. Harold thinks that he is not sure who his mother is, but she loves him a lot and must be doing everything she can to find him. And above anything else, the thing she wants the most is to hold him in her arms, even for a moment. That's the kind of mother she is. He imagines her looking at Matsudo in concern, wrapping her arms around the little boy. The same little boy who is lying in a coffin, several feet down in the dirt. Only this is why he can't bring himself to show her the little lifeless boy. Matsudo is missing and no one will know where he is. This is how they will proceed. Sir picks up a flower, sadly saying that she wanted to save him, but doesn't regret her reason. She couldn't have done anything better. She wanted to move and to save her for her own sake. She looks at the grave before turning away. Harold decides to give her some space. It looks like she's taking this incident as a way to strengthen her heart. He reasons that maybe this is because of living by the sword, as weapons have a close relationship to life. To use them responsibly, one needs to see the difference between the two. He looks at Atai, thinking that she is someone who has lived in a labyrinth before she became a slave. She probably has the same feelings as he, sir. He looks down as if he is the only one who has been living normally and has never gotten the chance to get used to things like this. The sun starts to set, and they finally reach a town. In the end, no matter how much he tries, he can't get rid of the guilt. Atai tries to reason with him that he's beating himself over something like this. There's nothing he could have done differently. And as long as he's alive, it doesn't matter. A painful voice calls out to them. A woman with fear flashing across her face looks at them breathlessly. She starts shaking Harold violently, asking about Matsudo. As he has disappeared, does he have any idea where he is? She reveals that her husband, Matsudo's father, has passed away as well. This news falls on Harold like a ton of bricks, and she says that he wanted to stroke his hair and pat his head one last time. She falls to her knees. Harold recalls Matsudo searching every inch of the land for medicine for his father. On his quest, he lost his life, and because he couldn't make it in time, his father is also dead. He wonders what should he do. How could he have done things differently? If he had handled it better, maybe they both would have been alive. Grief explodes inside of Harold as he continuously thinks that he could have saved them both, But even if he thinks like this, Matsudo is already infected with the poison. But if they could change things, the result would be still the same. With a heavy heart, he tells her he doesn't know what's right anymore. The sorrowful woman apologizes for troubling her, saying that she will be searching for Matsudo until she finds him. With a painful expansion, she says that he is the only thing she has in this world after all. As she turns to leave in a hurry, Atai looks at Harold making a weird face. She looks at him in concern before falling silent. After many days on the boat, nothing extraordinary happened, except for Harold telling Atai that he found a bootleg Onyx on Wish.com and they named it together. But this is the last time they will visit this town. And with time, the case of Matsudo will fade into history. What happened was tragic, he thinks. He is not the only one, and it shouldn't bother him so much. But the thing is that sudden endings are scary. He wonders if his ending will be the same, sudden and untimely. He recalls his house burning down, wondering what if he was sleeping at the time. Or when he was fighting the hideout, what if Atai's attack didn't make it in time? Atai appears around the corner. She looks at Harold with a weird look on his face, asking if something is wrong. Harold tells her that it's nothing, but Atai insists on knowing, saying that it looks as if he's in pain. He once again tries to disagree, but his eyes widen in surprise as Atai pulls in. After a passionate moment, they pull away, with Atai saying that when a man is going through something painful, he should satisfy a hurt without thinking too much. It's the best thing she's ever heard. All of a sudden, she tells Harold to do as he pleases. Harold pauses for a moment, for he has struck gold, asking if she is sure. He crawls over her, telling her that you won't be able to stop even if she yells "Yemek Kudasai" midway. And she's the one asking for the woody out of the hoodie. Atai still says that she has made her resolve. As he nibbles on her pointy ear, he goes for first base, resting his hand on her marshmallow and playing with him to his heart's content before going for a taste. He then decides to go for the second base and makes Atai recall all of the gods she has ever prayed to. As Harold turns into beast mode, he increases his intensity to grasp his density. Later, the ship starts sailing and Harold looks at his hands, wondering what has he done. He'll have to excuse himself, but he wonders what to do now that he has done unthinkable. He thinks that Atai wants this only because she cares for him. It's possible she didn't expect him to take her words seriously. And if that's the case, wouldn't it have been better to expect it and accept it? He wonders if, because of the collar of servitude, if she had disobeyed the collar, would think of it as a hostile act and kill her. Harold says that he's sure that he wants Atai, and not just her body, and he needs to cool his head for a while. The ship continues to sail, with Harold grabbing his head in pain and frustration. He's been walking through the ship to cool his head, but there has been no effect. If it wasn't for the young man, he looks at someone call him out, and it's the old timer. It is Cecil's grandfather, Varen. They sit together, and Harold wonders why is he sitting next to him. Varen tells him not to make such a strange face. He just wants to have a little chat with him and to thank him properly. This surprises Harold as he lets him know that he's thankful for him taking care of Cecil, and he also apologizes about Matsudo's case. Harold was not expecting Cecil to tell his grandpa about it. He tries to brush it off, but Varen still thanks him, saying that he has a cute granddaughter, stronger than him, and she will be fine even without him. Being strong or weak, winning or losing or surviving, they are very different, tells the old timer. Harold also recalls his past, with Varen saying that she is a bit reckless and that he should be careful. It could be the reason he lost his life. He winks at Harold, saying that Cecil wasn't too happy with his behavior, and he knew immediately that he was the one who had been keeping her in check. And this is only his guess, but maybe Cecil wants to surprise attack him. The old-timer laughs, apologizing, as Harold tells him that he doesn't mind it. The old-timer says that he's glad to hear of it, and he shouldn't feel as if he owes anything. But if it's alright, he wants Harold to listen for a bit. This surprises Harold, as Varen says that looking at his face, it's as if something is troubling him. Harold gives him a side-eye, saying that he is in a tough situation right now and needs to cool his head. Everyone is gathering around to see Harold fight off Varen. Both of them hold their wooden weapons, with everyone excitedly saying it's a wooden sword versus a wooden spear. Harold is not sure how this happened, but he's here to fight. Varen laughs that if he wants to cool his head, he should trade blows and play with his sword. He recognizes the same moves as Cecil, as the old-timer tells him not to worry and to give it all he's got. Harold is not too happy to fight an old man, but this old man is no ordinary bag of bones. He creates a tornado around him, and it is a tornado of his aura. It's not something someone with little skill can make. Harold wonders who is this guy. He hears the oldie say that he has a title too. He is Varen, the former sword sage. This surprises him. He is very inexperienced when it comes to throwing hands, but he knows what that title means. Cecil is very strong. She must have learned from this guy that was a sword sage. Varen takes a step, asking if he's ready and what's wrong. He should think of him as a shoulder to lean on. Harold tries to keep the distance open or else he will be attacked. Varen smiles, saying that if he wants to run away, he won't let him. Harold is not too happy. He doesn't even need to say anything to see the difference in their abilities. He just wants to give up his spear and surrender. But Varen will not take surrender as an option. He vanishes suddenly. Everyone looks around, wondering where he is, but he appears right next to Harold, swinging his sword and sending him flying. He smiles, saying that that was a good response. It looks as if his eyes couldn't keep up. Harold starts enjoying himself and gets into a fight. It is instinct. Harold, on the other hand, knows that Varen is taking it easy. Numerous copies of Varen surround him. He fights to the best ability. The crowd starts cheering. Finally, Harold is lying on his back with bruises over his body, saying that he only lasted a few minutes, just like with a tie. Varen wonders if his head is as cool as a cucumber. He reaches for him. He wonders if he is tired from getting beat up, but he is certainly cool now. And now he will apologize to Ate. That will be the best. He thanks Varen for the lesson. He smiles, saying that he is only a human. Trouble is natural. He tells Harold that being troubled and worried is the same thing. When he was a sword sage, it was full of it. There are people in the world who would like to cut off their worries, but it's just saying that they don't care about their responsibilities. Even though he is strong, he still worries and hesitates, wonders Harold. Varen smiles, saying that it's true to this day that he will get troubled and worried. That's why he ran away. This surprises Harold, as Varen says that war will break out on the northern continent. The Empire will start the war for the unification of the continent. It will happen soon. That's why he fled to get his granddaughter away from the war. He will flee across the continent. This surprises him. As a former sword sage, he still has information coming his way. After carefully going through it, he knows that the Empire is in a confusion. They are building an army for the war, and they are using horrible dark magic, experimenting with creating hybrids in the labyrinth. Hearing this, he can't help but wonder if Spider Momi from earlier was one of the hybrids. Varen agrees, saying that the human-like demon they fought was probably from the Empire. After managing to escape, it must have gone to banditry. The human demons may be going off the grid, but that is rare. Many such demons are vicious to start with, and they are never careful about their strength. Harold thinks that according to Velen, if Cecil had a fight with him, he would see them as a small fight. But if it's Velen, he could have cut her in half with his sword. It seems as if the northern continent is more trouble than worth, and it's good that they left it early. Varen says that he's trying to protect Cecil from war, and he doesn't know the ending. He is abandoning his friends and everyone he knew in his homeland. This is a decision he had to make after much consideration, but it still haunts him. He wonders if he made the right choice. Harold thinks that even with such big troubles, Velen is not sad. He accepts it. He has been self-loathing and struggling to keep his cool, but maybe it's not a bad thing. He looks at an island in the distance. Finally, he starts walking around in front of a door. He looks at a ring from a shop. He recalls looking at silver clay and the merchant saying that it's not very pure, but it's on the labyrinth. He tells him the price. He wants to give Ate something to apologize, and a handmade gift will be better. He asks the merchant for some tools. The merchant smiles, saying they're in the bag, and he will buy it if he lets them use it. If he is trying to do it himself, he must know how to work silver. With a look of sadness, he tells the merchant that he has been a silversmith for 15 years. He wonders what words should he say. He opens the door and looks at Ate feeding the little rock snake. She smiles, looking at Harold with no signs of anger. She is glad that he is back. He wonders what she has been up to. She looks at the little onyx, saying that she has been feeding Echidna. Ate realizes Harold is troubled. Harold finally blurts out that he wants to apologize. She wonders why. For what? He says for last night. It's as if he used his words as an excuse to force himself on her, and he wants to apologize. He slips the little beautiful ring on her finger, surprising her. She says a silver ring, very beautiful. Did he go out of his way to buy it? Harold says that he made it himself. He's a good silversmith. This surprises Ate, and he starts yapping. The silver works as a charm against evil and demons. Werewolves also don't like silver. Ate teases that Mr. Werewolf has already attacked her. Ate smiles, saying that she won't get attacked by any other wolf rather than him. This surprises Harold, as she says that he is a misunderstanding. She was very happy. She didn't want it to be that rough or anything, and knew that he was very gentle. It was a memorable first time, and she wanted to satisfy with care. Harold, being the little weak card loser, can't believe that he can bag such a baddie. She smiles, saying that it looks like he can't believe it. She tackles Harold, pushing him on the bed, saying that in that case, she will have to prove it. They start locking lips again. Harold tries to resist, but being the little loser, he can't. Ate takes a break, wondering if he's up for it. They start double leveling again. Ate is wondering if she's a bit too heavy. They start going all out. Ate is saying that she wants all of this with her own free will. They start doing like they do it on Discovery Channel, and the little rock snake freezes, getting PTSD. He looks at Harold, bringing out his own rock snake. They finally reach an island, and as they get off the ship, Harold says that he has some sightseeing to do. There must be something interesting. Atai hopes that there will be a lot of people and something unusual. They look at the city, it's beautiful, same as the port city they were in. It's a bit smaller, but it's a little different as well. They look around, it's a military port. Then they can stop. She wants to tell him that it's surprising how different it is. He wonders why, saying that it's a bit scary. But Atai says that it's more quiet. There are always sailors and soldiers walking. It makes it safer, but there are some problems as well. He wonders what is it, and what is she worried about. She explains there are a lot of red light streets, and that's where the problems are. The large number of soldiers means there is a large number of men, and some are too involved in such establishments, destroying their families. There's a weird disease, and clinics get overshadowed and overcrowded. He's afraid that the illness will cause pain. If they pass through such a port, Harold should take care. As a man, he might be interested, but he should take care. Harold says there is no need. He won't go to such places because he has Atai. Atai starts seeing me, saying that she is glad. They walk through the streets and sit on a bench. Atai says that she adores him. She finally reveals that she wants them to be together. If he had tried to reach third base on the day he bought her, she would have resisted. And if that would have been the case, she would have lost her life because of the collar. Harold looks at her sadly, wondering if it's time that they take off the collar. He reaches for it, but realizes that he doesn't know how to take it off. Maybe they can talk about it eventually, but Atai insists on wearing it as it's a sign that she belongs to Harold. Through the lone streets, Harold remembers how Atai insisted on keeping the collar as a sign of belonging to him. He looks at Atai wandering around happily. He suddenly looks at a grand ship, a very beautiful one, a luxury cruise ship. He wonders if it's the same as the one from the port town, and they seem to be from the northern continent as well. All of a sudden, a baddie in chains is brought forward. He looks around wondering what is it. Atai wonders if he is tripping, but Harold disagrees. The next day, he keeps playing with his onyx, all alone in the room. As he continues to play with his snake, Atai wants to play with his snake as well, grabbing hold of a hairpin and sending it flying. All of a sudden, a newspaper peeks through the door and he looks at the bulletin. It's an invitation to the night market, with no interesting places to see. He wonders if he should go. Atai also agrees, and they wander through the night market, with people walking around in a huge crowd. This surprises Harold. As Atai says she's sure there's part of it, but there must be another region. There are beautiful casinos lighted up. Harold thinks that it's a small island, but it has good gambling dance. All of a sudden, someone yells, "What girl?" A little beauty is making a killing at the poker table. Atai wonders if that's Cecil, and they hope that her grandfather doesn't find this side of her, as he seems to be aloof at the same time a bit serious. Harold wonders if his precious granddaughter is a gambling addict. He wonders if he should spill the beans to Valen, but decides to pretend that nothing is wrong. They then walk around. Meanwhile, somewhere else, someone tugs at a chain, telling the captive to stop slouching. Harold is back in his quarters, playing with his snake again and doing tricks with Atai clapping. He looks at Echidna, wondering if it's getting bigger and stronger. He wonders if it's a snake or something else, but he found it in the half-human den. They hear someone squirming and crying. The couple walk through the corridor and look at Valen carrying Cecil in a very caked-up position. Valen angrily wonders what is all of this gambling about. Cecil tries to play it cool, but Valen is even more furious. But Cecil sees nothing wrong, saying that they didn't lose and they won it all. She could see the dice roll. She could figure out everything because she has 100 IQ. She has no chance of losing, but instead of losing at the poker table, she loses feelings in her bottom. After Valen slaps it mercilessly, yelling out that her eyes are for swordsmanship only, Harold looks at Cecil, get it, from the back. With tearful eyes, she asks Harold to help her. Harold under the hand waves around, enjoying the show of her peaches turning bright red from pale white. Atai whispers that she feels sorry, but Harold says it can't be helped. She should be prepared for it. Atai jokes that she wouldn't be crying if she was prepared. On a cider and darker note, Cecil angrily calls for Harold. Atai looks at Harold in anger, wondering why is she calling him by his name, but she brushes it off. Harold starts poking her cheeks, saying that she is a cutie. This causes her to blush. Meanwhile, at the cabin, Harold hears someone talk about a fire earlier this morning. A house burned down and the next one was half destroyed. Harold wonders why to lose their home to a fire is something only he can imagine. It's very frightening, whispers Atai, chiming in that it sounds dreadful. Harold says it can't be helped and they will be leaving the island soon. He just thinks that it would be troubling that it happened here. After they leave the island, they wonder if they should head for the western continent. Harold asks Atai if they have one more relay point between them. All of a sudden, they spot Cecil, who is still pouting after receiving no help from her cake battering session. She calls Harold a cold-blooded lizard as she continues to tease him for having a V card. Harold thinks that he is no longer a V card keeping nerd, and if she is going to town, then they will try not to get involved too much. Atai, on the other hand, gets jealous, asking if he is too kind because of Cecil. Harold wonders what's this about. How can anyone get jealous over a piece of trash like him? Atai angrily says that she is small, thin, and cute. It's as if she is the kind of person he would want to protect. Harold looks at her in surprise, asking what's her problem, but she sadly says that it's nothing. Harold can't help but wonder if she is just in a bad mood. They're back in their quarters and Atai wonders about the deck. Harold says they should go see the view. It will be nice to look around. Doesn't she agree? She smiles, but all of a sudden, Echidna slithers between her bosom, ready to third-wheel their date. They look at the sky's cave with lights surrounding the city, a very plain, ordinary view, but the view is not what Harold is here to see. He looks at Atai, smiling, and he's happy that she is happy. After looking at the beautiful scene, Harold says that it's time to go back, and Atai agrees. She wears her sun hat, much to his surprise. They run into Valen, who is still waiting for someone. They wonder what's up. What brings him out? With a very scary smile, Valen says that he's waiting for his idiotic grandchild. The look in his eyes makes him realize that he's not very happy. He must be after Cecil. Harold tries to lighten the mood by asking what his plans are after they head back. He replies that he will be hanging his grandchild and it can't be helped. That's all he knows at this point. He'll tie her and have her realize that sitting is a privilege for the obedient. Harold tries to reason with the old man that it might be too much. Valen is not in the mood for it, asking if he wants some of what he's dishing out. Harold quickly tells him that he's not in the mood, he's not fruity. Valen turns to leave, saying there's no need for more information. Harold is still not convinced that it is suitable for her mistake. Atai looks at Harold in anger and jealousy. Valen interrupts their thoughts, saying that Cecil never listens. Harold tries to cool the old man, saying the children never know how the parents suffer or how they feel. Valen likes it, saying that he's been lenient with his grandchildren as they're all cute, but he won't have the luxury to be absent. He further explains that she is using her eyes that have been trained for swordsmanship, for gambling, and he didn't train her so she could use his gift for such minded purposes. Harold realizes that he's not punishing her for gambling, but for using her skills in the wrong place. Valen points to the rock snake, wondering what is that. The rock snake is happy to poke out Matei's milkers. Harold quickly says that it's their pet. Valen, on the other hand, is not too happy with the snake, wondering why they have a demon as a pet. This surprises everyone. Even Harold raises an eyebrow, wondering how can they not know it's a demon. Harold just thinks that the rock snake is interesting and he doesn't care if it's a demon or not, but he wonders how can he tell. The old man explains that back in the Libranith, it seems as if Atai knows that it's a demon. This surprises Harold even more, who wonders if it's true. Atai nervously says that she wasn't sure he knew when they decided to take the little rock snake. This turns super embarrassing for Harold as he is stupid along with being a loser. Valen tries to raise his spirits, saying that only a few are capable of taming demons. Atai also tries to cheer him, saying that it only happens in stories, it's rare for demons to be friendly. Harold quickly changes the topic, hoping that Cecil will come back. This causes the old man to smile like a man constipated for a week, saying that she better come back soon. Harold smiles, offering to look for her. In reality, he just wants someone else to be embarrassed as well. Atai also wants to see her punished. They walk through the streets, trying to find Cecil, but it's of no use. They finally hear her voice in a gambling den. Harold thanks Atai for her keen hearing. After being a loser for all his life, now he has evolved into a simp. Atai looks at Harold, saying that she wants a favor if that's okay. Harold looks away in embarrassment, saying that he will do whatever she wants. They look around, wondering what the hell is happening. They arrive at a burning building. People are panicking and running around, and flames are spreading everywhere. They wonder what the hell is happening. One of them wonders why has he started a fire after losing to a girl. They try to run away, but instead of running away, Harold and Atai walk right into the heart of the flames, trying to spot Cecil, but it's of no use. They finally spot Cecil, holding her sword against a column of flames, yelling angrily, why are they trying to start a fire? This is a place of fun. Her opponent says that they're having as much fun as possible, but after they lost, they lit up a little fire, a nice barbecue to go with their defeat. It's their idea of fun. Harold tries to spot who is it. The man on the other end points at Cecil, saying that she's the reason they started this barbecue night. So if she had lost, this wouldn't have happened. As Cecil is about to attack, the man takes his leave along with a beautiful elf behind. Harold quickly grabs Cecil, realizing the gravity of the situation. They can't stop the fire now, but they will have to try or else the whole town will burn down. Cecil, on the other hand, faints. After all, it's been a hard day. Atai looks unimpressed, saying that she's fainted. Probably too much heat for her. But it's good that she's safe. Now they should take her home. Harold can't help but wonder if she's responsible for her unconsciousness. Atai looks guilty, saying she would never do something like that. She smiles with flames burning around her, saying they should get going. As they turn to leave, they meet Valen, who is happy to find Cecil. As he learns of the problem she has landed herself in, he can't wait for her to wake up so that she can be unalived. Later, the couple moves away. Atai whispers that she wants to take a bath now as she is dirty after going through the fire. Harold realizes this is the favor she wants. He wonders if he should accompany her. Later, they do everything except take a bath. They definitely get wet without turning on the shower. After their passion continues to collide, they finally fall asleep. When Harold finally wakes up, he notices Atai is still asleep. He looks around, noticing this rock snake wanting to show him something, with his own snake not being able to get up anymore. He follows Echidna, grabbing his spear and wondering what it is about. They move away from the ship and look at another building burning. They wonder what the hell is going on. There are no buildings around so the fire won't spread, but it's still messy that there is a fire here, and it is natural for fire to start all alone. All of a sudden, a bootleg copy of Redo of Healer appears with an elf chain behind him. Harold wonders who this guy is. The man, on the other hand, wonders what this is. He is rude. Harold tries to play it cool, but the man calls him trash, saying that he is the third son of a certain count of the Empire. This surprises Harold as he realizes that he is the Ardman man who won the elf in the bidding war. Realizing that he is the son of a count, his going to the Libranith must be true. He wonders if he is the guy from the auction house. The pretty boy, on the other hand, is smug. Harold decides to suck up to him, wondering how did such a great man end up in Ireland. The man smiles, saying that he can't stay in one place too long. He has been hearing a voice ever since he was little, and it never goes away. He continues to follow it, thinking of it as a revelation, and he can't stay in one place for too long. Harold can't help but wonder if he should be chained up in Arkham Asylum. He further tells Harold that the internal voice tells him to keep burning it all. He should burn everything that he doesn't like, and it is so fun. But ever since the last fire, he has been having a blast. At the gambling den too, Harold wonders if the fire in the kingdom of Lemus was a newly built house. He replies that it was new and looked perfect. Realizing that he is the one who burned down his house, his face turns dark as he is ready to throw hands. But Harold decides to be the bigger man as he doesn't want to throw hands over a house he didn't care about, not anymore at least. Looking at the madman, he wants nothing to do with him. He tries to excuse himself, but before he can go, he finds a sword to his neck, with the Count saying that how can he think he can go after learning the truth? He won't let it spread. Harold promises never to tell anyone, but the man tries to be poetic about how dead men tell no lies. He will deal with those who saw him at the den as well, and he is also going to go after Cecil and torture her to the best of his ability. Hearing his awful plan, Harold thinks that Cecil is strong. He can't beat her, but he needs to run away. He looks around for Onyx, wanting to save him from the fight, and the little snake is hiding looking at its master being manhandled. The Count sudden swings his blade, but Harold parries the blow easily, surprising the pretty boy, asking how can he do that. Harold realizes that this pretty boy is nothing but fluff. He continues to parry each blow, giving the illusion that the man is getting weaker. Harold doesn't want to put him in his place, but he's a dog that can only bark, not bite. He looks at the elf, wondering if it would be trouble. On the other hand, he realizes that the elf is happy to see her master get his bottom beaten, recalling how she was treated back in the Libranith. She must be feeling amazing seeing his master get a taste of his own medicine. Her master, on the other hand, swings his sword like an idiot, but Harold knocks him out cold. He wants to kill him, but the elf stops him, saying that not until he removes the collar, it will be troublesome for her if he dies. Harold realizes what she is asking for. The elf thanks him for beating the stuffing out of him, as it would have been troublesome for her collar. The guy is weak and has no idea how he's been diving into the Libranith. She looks away in disgust, saying that he really would have been long gone if not for her, and she's not too fond of his master's lighting hobbies. Harold realizes that she's a yapper, a certified one. He ties her up with the pretty boy, but instead of helping her out, he posts a sticky note on the boy's head, labeling him as the fire starter before moving away. But the elf is still bad-mouthing him, wanting to cut off his twig and feed it to the door. After hearing her foul-mouthed threats, he turns to leave. As the ship starts to sail on the deck, Cecil is tied up and she's not enjoying it, pleading with Grandpa to let her down. She tries to use her puppy dog eyes, but these eyes are the reason she's in this position. Valen yells that if that's how she plays, she will end up with some stranger. Cecil looks away, saying that she likes gentlemen. Valen wonders what is she talking about. He continues to scold her. Harold looks at the Sword Sink family work it out from a distance. He finally decides to go back to sleep. As the ship continues to sail, he wonders how much further until the next continent. The sailor tells him that there's one more day on the island than the next. It will be 2 weeks. Harold realizes it's been 20 days since they left. A lot has happened. He recalls his little showdown with Pretty Boy, and he hopes that they can take it easy now. When they finally arrive, to their surprise, instead of humans, little cats are walking around on 2 legs, wearing clothes. Atai whispers that they are intelligent cats. They can understand and speak. They surprise Harold as they are not demi-humans. They hear a little cat wondering what's wrong. And this is a nice island with a lot of shopping stores. The cat finally turns away, surprising Harold as it's real that they speak. They look at the cats, living their best life. One of them approaches Harold, asking if he would want a tour of the island. He'll also get a discount. Hearing the large prize, Harold wonders if it's not a good idea, but the cat is about to cry, begging him that he can't live without work, as he continues to cry and beg. The cat promises to let them pet his belly if they agree. They finally agree and want to receive the promised pets. Atai goes ahead, petting the little cat. Everyone's happy as they continue to walk around the city, looking at beautiful statues, shopping districts, and many more. Harold finally hands the little kitty its payment, but the little kitty on the other hand looks at Echidna, yelling out it's a demon. How can he be friends with a demon? Harold tries to hide a snake, but it's out of his bag. The cat promises not to tell anyone. They soon hear a scream and look at a cat drowning, and no one can swim after all their cats. He realizes that they're going to die and he can't ignore it. Trying to act like a hero in front of Atai, he plunges into the water. After saving the kitty and getting a towel rubbed by Atai, he's celebrated as a hero. Their guide also says that he's not a bad guy. So there's something he will tell them that he can't tell other customers, a secret place where he wants to take them. They wonder about the secret place. The cat promises to let them meet someone who wants to talk to them, someone that he can't show others. Their curiosity is blazing. As they continue to hear about the mysterious person they will meet, they finally agree and walk down a dangerous path. Falling from here will mean confirmed death. The guide explains there's an old tale about a demon in the underwater castle. If they carelessly fall, they will be dragged down and never to be seen again. He smiles, saying that he doesn't believe, and here he is. They reach a low beach place, but there's no one here. The cat explains that mermaids are here. They're the ones he wants them to talk to. They surprise the couple. How can there be mermaids and they've never seen any? According to the lore, some people come across large areas at the labyrinth, and they can encounter them there. Harold wonders if they're demons who got out of the labyrinth. The little cat tells them to come over here and there, promising the mermaids to be very gentle and for them to speak carefully. All of a sudden, a beautiful mermaid splashes out of the water, looking at the little guide and calling him Shobani. The little cat calls the mermaid Anna. Anna smiles, saying that the weather is nice and she's here. She looks around wondering who are the two behind them. Shobani says they're his guests. They're not bad guys, so he brought them over. Anna smiles, introducing herself. Harold and Atai also introduce themselves. They wonder if it's magic. Pointing at a butterfly, Atai apologizes, seeing that she created the butterfly. It's a magic to check for danger. Atai tries to clear the air that she doesn't want to cause harm, and she doesn't want to offend her as well. Anna says that it's fine. She didn't attack her after all, and they're trying to figure out if they're bad or not. Harold also apologizes, but Anna tells them to pay it no mind. Shobani says that they're good, so they're good. Shobani then says that they should have a chair. They start joking around, and they start getting along pretty well. Looking at the beautiful scene before them, Harold says that it's nice scenery and he wants to roam around. They start looking around. Atai apologizes for creating a magical butterfly, but Harold smiles, asking how and why would she be sorry. It's not something he could have done, and she did it for him. He will thank her instead. She smiles like a kid in a candy store, wondering if there's some magic sensing organ that the mermaid has. Harold also wants to know, as that would be useful. This confuses Atai, who wonders if she's not good for him or good enough. Harold blushes, saying that's not what he means. All of a sudden, he hears a cry. They turn to see Anna tell them that there's a place that Shobani told them about, the place from the island tale, the underwater castle. The little cat is furious, looking around, wondering if there's really a place like that. Anna says that out of curiosity, she went inside it and saw something. Holding his breath, the little cat wonders if it was a demon, but Anna recalls that it was not. It was not something that had good vibes. The little kitty starts to sweat, wondering if it's a pervert and he needs to tell everyone. As he turns to leave, Anna tells him to wait. How would he explain his source? They will find out about her existence. Shobani stops suddenly, realizing that it would mean trouble for them if they find out about a magical creature living so near them. Anna also nods, saying that they will think that she's a demon. Wanting to warn them out of kindness is nice, but he needs to think things through. Harold gets curious, but as they are strangers, they can't just involve themselves. The little kitty wonders what should they do. Anna says she needs some time to think about it. They don't know how dangerous it is. She will go down and take another look. The little kitty tells her it'd be safe. She smiles, telling Shobani that he is very kind and she loves that. The couple looks at them leave. Meanwhile, at an inn. Inside the ship, Cecil says that he doesn't need to stay here with her. Velen, on the other hand, doesn't trust her anymore, even though his back hurts and he should be in bed. She wonders how he hurt his back, but he tries to brush it off, saying it was nothing. They finally come across the power couple. Velen looks at Atai and nervously says that he's a man of his word. Atai smiles, saying that it's good that he's a man of his word. Cecil tells them to sit down, they should eat together. They also notice a lot of cats walking around, serving and pretending to be people. Velen says that it's common outside of the region. When he was younger, he had the opportunity to travel the world, so it's nothing new since he's seen it thousands of times. However, nothing has changed on the island. 30 years ago when he was here, there were cats like these. Harold wonders if he's been on the island before. What was his reason for visiting? He explains that he is at the top of his journey. His wife wanted to travel across the world. He wonders about her as Veril explains that she's no more. The trip across the world was her last request and she didn't live long. Cecil also chimes in that her grandma died before she was born. Harold apologizes, but Veril says it's nothing to worry about. She was a bright woman and is grateful for the time they had together. He explains that there's a superstition around the island. After hearing about the underwater castle, the grandfather and granddaughter duo want to know more, with Veril saying that when he was more mobile, he would spend hours searching for the castle. He wonders if it's really at the bottom of the island. He wonders if it's really at the bottom of the sea. They wonder how can they search for it. They don't have an ocean gate or a submarine. Valen smiles, saying that he will split the sea with his sword, a move he learned from Moses himself. Harold wonders how is this possible. Veril smiles, saying that he did it secretly during the night so as not to startle the cats, but it ended up being too dark to see. Cecil wonders if Grandpappy is lying, but he disagrees, saying why would he lie? There was no other way for him to do it, although he was here to train her. He's never shown her a glimpse of her grandfather's true strength. Cecil really wants to know if he's telling the truth or not. She needs to be strong enough to know it. Veril then says that they will reach the western continent soon. It will be a good time to part ways since he's not sure they'll be able to do so later. He wants to say it's been a pleasure, and he wonders if they will head to the southern continent, as they will be heading to the western part of the western continent. Harold thanks them for everything. He's sure that they will have a chance to meet up in the future. Cecil, on the other hand, carelessly says that she likes Harold, but her grandfather puts his hand over her mouth, looking at Atai and dragging Cecil away. Harold wonders why is Atai so chill. Later the next day, they're still in bed trying to get Harold's rock snake to rise. As they're busy, the mermaid appears next to their window, causing the couple to quickly turn away. They wonder what she wants. Does she want to join in? They finally meet at the beachside. Anna wonders if they can hold their own in a fight. It's clear that she can use magic. She further explains that she doesn't want to be rude but needs help. A magical creature cannot ask someone for help. If she comes forward, she will be killed. Harold realizes that they're the only ones that can help her. She explains that after going to check on the castle, she saw a weird guy from before and she thought that he was just a harmless magical creature like her. But when she saw him yesterday, he was doing something weird, saying that he needed more bones. Since they're the ones who can help her, is she planning on fighting? Why doesn't she just stare away from this weird man? This causes Anna to stare at them hard, smashing her tail against the rock and yelling out that if they do that, Shobani will be in trouble. All of a sudden, she starts blushing. Harold apologizes for being insensitive. The mermaid pleads with them to help her. He notices her strange feelings and looks at Atai, also wanting to help. He finally agrees, saying that they will go together. The mermaid thanks them and creates a bubble for them to travel in. They look around at the sea lake, smiling that it's a magical creature, smiling that it's a beautiful kind of magic. He will have no problem moving underwater. Anna smiles, saying that she is an expert in water magic. They finally arrive at the castle. Harold looks at Anna creating another water bubble, surrounding the mansion with it. Now they can walk around freely. As the water on the castle vanishes, Atai says that she can use some water-repelling magic. However, something on this scale is impossible after a mermaid specialized in water magic. The mermaid then swaps her tail for two beautiful long legs. Atai wonders if this is magic as well. Anna smiles, saying that it's more of a skill. They walk around trying to be careful with their next step. They walk through the underwater castle, thinking that it could crumble at any time because of its old structure. As they walk through different rooms, the butterfly floating next to Atai senses danger down the corridor. They arrive in a small room, but Atai quickly tells Harold to look out. He leaps out of the way as a giant golem crashes behind him. He wonders if he has heard of things like these before, puppets made out of magic. The golem tries to reach for Harold, but he jumps out of the way, realizing that it's trying to attack and that it is made of bones to create a human-like structure. He asks Anna if this is a demon she saw earlier, but she disagrees, saying that it was something else when she was here the last time. It must be someone who has made it, reasons Atai. They spot a little eye sparkling from inside of the golem. Atai realizes that the one responsible for making the demon must be hiding inside of it. The mysterious man smiles, saying that they are quite confident but won't be able to defeat his bone armor. Harold wonders, why is this guy obsessed with bones? They just need to knock it down and get the man from inside. Atai has a better idea, to land a fatal blow on the one hiding inside. She takes out her sniper and shoots a magical bullet, tearing through the armor and revealing a man in the middle. Harold compliments her on a nice shot. It's lucky that the armor is made of bones and has a lot of space between them. It's easier to shoot them. They'd wonder if it's all over, but the man is nowhere near death. Atai wants to shoot again, as she's wrong. The man is completely unharmed, saying that's quite a surprise and he's impressed by her accuracy. He wonders if they are surprised that he's all right. He strives to act mysterious, asking over and over again how can he survive, and he will not tell them even if they beg him. Atai, on the other hand, is too smart for his dumb mystery act, saying that he must be a necromancer. It is normal for them to turn into undead and he won't die from a couple of bullets in his body. They look around at the bones, creating the golem. Atai explains that to defeat him they need to shatter his head, and he is clever enough to know his weak point. She shoots again, but the bullet simply bounces from his block head. A forehead so big that only his mother can love it. Bro has before head and after head. Harold wonders how can the bullet bounce when he has such a big forehead. The man realizes that the cat is out of the bag. Then he is surprised that they have so vast knowledge of the magical arts and still they just now found him out. He explains that the castle has been underground for 300 years, but recently something happened. The sea suddenly spilt and it was exciting to see. Harold realizes that Velen must be responsible. The man smiles, saying that he discovered these powerful golems and that's why he needed so many bones to create them. Harold wonders if he is an idiot who is obsessed with bones and maybe he should bone him as well. He continues to yap about bones and how cat bones are made into the golem. And that's not the best part. The castle used to be ordinary, but he remodeled it. The castle starts shaking as the man smiles. With such a big forehead, he always thinks 2 steps ahead. He says that the castle is made of anyone who can guess at bones. He has used his bone power to renovate the walls and everything. So now the whole island is a golem. They wonder if this is a bootleg version of Infinity Castle from Demon Slayer. He can freely control the castle. The castle starts levitating as the man smiles that he will kill everyone on the nearby island and who can guess what he's going to use. He is going to use more bones to create the castle and make it bigger so that he can take over the world. He smiles as now it's time for his fun. He creates numerous zombies, very strong puppets, and it doesn't matter if they destroy the castle, he will recreate it again and again. Atai tells Harold that the golem doesn't contain poison, in other words, it can't be stopped without physical destruction. But these puppets are much stronger. It's also true that they can reorganize over and over again, so it won't be easy. Harold also realizes that she is worried and he is a dangerous enemy. He fights one of them, but he immediately reforms. They keep coming one after another with big heads, smiling that they should go on and on and on. He continues to keep away from the zombies, but the enemy is too strong and the spear is reaching its limit. They can't let this continue. The entire fortress starts moving towards the island and the puppets are reaching for Harold, who is trying his best to survive. He wonders about Valen. If they don't end up defeating the necromancer, he will notice it and step in, and he won't find out until there are several casualties. It will be too late. He wonders what should he do. There are too many around, and it's hard to deal with. If his spear breaks, it will end their life. He needs to use something to penetrate through the golems. He recalls Atai pleading with him not to use that power, but he spots Atai being grabbed by the bone puppets. Big Forehead wants to end it as the wall starts collapsing. He tells Harold that he will make sure that their corpses make good use. He looks at Atai being manhandled by the golems as Big Forehead can sense everything from the golems. Looking at her hapless face, Harold explodes in fury, grabbing his spear and getting ready. Blood starts pouring from his eyes. Something dark overcomes him. Atai tells him to stop it, but he refuses to listen, using earth-piercing spear as shatter space and time. Later, Harold wakes up at a bar. He wonders how they managed to get here. Atai must be worried, but to his surprise, everything is in black and white. His left eye can't use colors anymore. But he doesn't regret it, but he can't keep using that power. If he uses it again, the probability of a greater price is higher. He wonders why is it. Why his father was never wounded while showing it to him. Ever since that day, he can't use it. It's as if he can't control the power and his father didn't teach him properly. A voice calls out to him. Atai appears around the room asking if he is okay. He smiles, saying that he is fine, and Atai smiles gladly, saying that that was the last resort he mentioned. He agrees that she has never seen it before. She knows it must be a very dangerous power to use, and she doesn't want Harold to use it ever again. With sparkling eyes, she wants Harold to promise. Harold promises. Atai angrily says that if he breaks his promise, he will be in big trouble. He promises to find another way to fight. He then asks what happened after he passed out. Atai recalls his attack, piercing every bony thing in his past. It all worked out, and the castle and the ugly guy disappeared. Harold smiles, saying that that's good. Atai says that Anna also said she wanted to thank him once he recovered. At the beach, Kitty and Mermaid are having a nice time. They look at the couple thanking them. Harold tries to brush it off, but the little cat says that he is thankful for saving the island and for asking them. Anna is also grateful. They then turn away. They bring out an unconscious little girl, and Harold wonders what is the meaning of this. The little kitty says it's a gift. He wonders why, but when he looks closer, it turns out that it's a doll. Anna explains that it is a human-like doll. She's been looking for the key for a thank you gift, but they found something better. He accepts it graciously, and they set sail. Anna greets them happily as they turn to leave, wondering what should they do with the doll. Harold knows exactly what he wants to do, but he's not alone right now. He tries to touch her, and she immediately wakes up, looking around, wondering what is this place. Harold is scared. How can it move, and now he can't carry his plan of solo puppet time? They look at the little puppet, asking who are they.